Chapter 856. Meeting the person who killed Granny Kufa. Jiang Hao killed Granny Kufa. At the place where her body shattered, a sapling emerged. It was the longevity 1,000 hearts curse. He knew this wasn't a normal sapling when he reached out for it. It was a magical item in the shape of a sapling. It was too bad that he couldn't take it along with him. He could have gotten bubbles out of it. He checked it. There was no dust on it. He was disappointed. There was no way he could wipe it to get bubbles. Even under the Heavenly Blade's mountain suppression, the curses hadn't dissipated. It seemed like they were still trying to escape. Jiang Hao sensed the longevity 1,000 hearts curse everywhere. Without hesitation, he let the purple aura enter the magical item and interfered with the curse. In an instant, the curse shattered. At that moment, the surrounding curses seemed to lose their intensity. With a wave of his hand, Jiang Hao suppressed the curse with the mountain sea seal. He searched for the storage treasure and put it away when he found it. He checked to make sure everything was fine. Then, he retrieved the yin-yang bracelet. Granny Kufa was dead. However, just as he landed, he felt that the mountain sea seal seemed to have triggered something else. It was very subtle. It might have been a clue related to the sage's pages. He had to wait there for a while. However, it didn't seem to be in line with Jiyu Jin's identity. When Jiyu Jin was young, he might have been full of pride and ambition but also kind and generous. If he wanted to disguise himself, he had to be careful. Jiyu Jin's name carried too much weight and attracted a lot of attention. He dared not use it lightly. At that moment, the people around looked at each other in disbelief. Granny Kufa was dead. Granny Kufa isn't really dead, is she? Someone asked. I saw it before. Her curses always caused a rampage and then exploded. Granny Kufa would always laugh mockingly after a fight. But this time, she didn't. She might really have died this time, said a woman in the crowd. At that moment, an old man with a significantly powerful cultivation realm said, I also saw it. Whenever someone tried to kill Granny Kufa, she always managed to escape in the end. She was difficult to catch. But this time, a sapling has appeared where she was. I think that is her treasure. She was always prideful and reckless because of that thing. She might actually be dead. Everyone fell silent. It felt unreal that Granny Kufa had died. The notorious Granny Kufa, who was fearless and difficult to kill, had died. Some people still felt that Granny Kufa might appear at any moment. If she had died this easily, it meant the major sects were useless. Jiang Hao didn't pay attention to their words. Instead, he walked straight to Hong Yuye. She was quietly sipping tea and waiting. Just as Jiang Hao tried to sit in one of the chairs, she raised her head and looked at him. Disdain appeared in her calm eyes. Jiang Hao showed her the longevity 1,000 hearts curse that was sealed in a purple sphere that hovered on his palm. Do all unlucky things like to run to you? Hong Yuye asked. Senior, you're joking. The cultivation world is dangerous. That means unlucky things are everywhere. I don't have an affinity with them, said Jiang Hao. He also felt that he got entangled with ominous things one too many times. But he couldn't admit it. Hong Yuye looked at him carefully. She didn't say anything. Instead, she lowered her head and sipped her tea. Jiang Hao also sat down and drank September Spring. He had bought 8 packs of it. Now, only 7 remained. It would be challenging to buy it in the next 10 years. At least, he wasn't sure if he could buy it in such a remote place like the Heavenly Note sect. After they sat down, some people began to leave. Soon, the news of Granny Kufa's death spread like wildfire. Many people didn't believe it. However, when they dug deeper, they found out that Granny Kufa's heavenly connection had disappeared. Forces related to Granny Kufa had completely vanished overnight. 3 days later, anyone who was close to Granny Kufa disappeared from their areas. Those who were not close to her but were still connected to her declared that they were never on good terms with Granny Kufa. Everyone was now sure that Granny Kufa was really dead. It was a fact that they couldn't ignore. The arrogant old woman was finally dead. Many people were curious about the killer. A middle-aged man walked out of his hut in the ancient river sect. He had been in seclusion for many years. He had heard about Granny Kufa's demise, so he wanted to make sure. "Master," said a man. "Is it true that Granny Kufa was killed?" the middle-aged man asked. "Indeed." The man in his 30s nodded. "Where did it happen?" "At the Thousand Springs River." "Fetch me a portion of the sect's best tea." "Understood." A moment later, the middle-aged man departed on his flying sword. Meanwhile, in the ancient city, Jing Dajiang was surprised. Why have so many people been spreading the news about Granny Kufa's death? Who is Granny Kufa? I don't know. His two old companions shook their heads. It seems like many people want to meet the person who killed her. Since we're free, let's go take a look. Let's go and check it out, Jing Dajiang said. Granny Kufa is a junior, right? Why should we bother? Asked the bearded man. Let's go see who the person is. What if it's a wandering cultivator? They might have wanted to attract attention that way, Jing Dajiang said with a smile. The two old men nodded. After that, they headed toward the Thousand Springs River. Is there a rumor that there's information about the sage's pages there? Jing Dajiang asked. Yes. The beardless old man nodded. The three people became even more interested. Down at the Thousand Springs River, a middle-aged man who had previously traded with Jiang Hao looked up. He was astonished. This fellow cultivator is unexpectedly powerful. He walked toward him. He wanted to make another trade with the person. Based on their previous exchange, Jiang Hao didn't seem like someone who robbed others of their treasure. So, there shouldn't be any harm in trading now. Jiang Hao suddenly looked up from his cup of tea. Jiang Hao was quite surprised. Senior. Jiang Hao politely said. Friend, please don't misunderstand. I'm only here for a trade, said the middle-aged man. Jiang Hao felt bitter. I don't even have spirit stones. Then, he thought of Granny Kufa's storage treasure that he had picked up earlier. He checked it and smiled. Senior, please have a seat. Chapter 857, Making a Pickaxe in Lu Mantien, said the middle-aged man. He sat down and smiled. I have run into you quite a few times, but I still don't know your name. Jiang Hao thought for a moment. Jiu. He dared not reveal his full name. Not many people knew about Jiu Jin, but old people definitely knew who Jiu Jin was. Jiang Hao wanted to be careful. It would attract unnecessary trouble. It was not necessary to use his full name. After appearing here as Jiu Jin, he dared not use his other identities. Friend Jiu, take a look at the treasures I have here, Lu Mantien said with a smile. Jiang Hao was also curious. He didn't have many spirit stones on him. Despite Granny Kufa's prowess, she had kept a low profile and hadn't carried many spirit stones in her storage treasure. There was still a significant amount in her storage treasure, though. He found 180,000 spirit stones there. This was the richest person he had ever seen. She even had a few spirit herbs and other magical items. If all these items were sold, it might fetch him more than 300,000 spirit stones. Granny Kufa was quite wealthy. At that moment, Lu Mantien brought out many magical items. Each one was rustier than the last. They all looked ordinary, but each contained a hint of spiritual energy. Even powerful items such as these couldn't escape the erosion of time. Then, Jiang Hao saw a halberd. A violent aura emanated from it. Halberds weren't easy to sell, and the rust was difficult to get rid of. This halberd is well preserved. Friend Jiu, would you like to take a look? Lu Mantien asked. Jiang Hao shook his head. He chose a long sword. There was a hint of the sword's intent emanating from it. There was also a shield, 2 bracelets, and 2 strange treasures. Jiang Hao asked about the prices. The price wasn't low. It almost cost a total of 120,000 spirit stones. Oh, I also have 3 packs of September Spring here. Would you like it? Lu Mantien again. Jiang Hao was speechless. In the end, he spent 60,000 spirit stones on it. He had spent a total of 180,000 spirit stones. He didn't plan to buy tea leaves for himself, but Hong Yuye was right there, so he had to buy some. Now, he had 10 packs of September Spring left. It wasn't a loss. The tea could always be sold for more. He had so many magical items with him, but he didn't intend to sell them yet. He planned to activate the sword embryo with the sword intent and take the bracelets back to give to the spirit beast and Xiao Li. He decided to give the armor to Lin Ji. He would melt the shield to make a pickaxe. Cheng Cho wouldn't get anything from him this time. Helping him with cultivation was enough. His progress couldn't be rushed. He needed a little guidance. Otherwise, reaching the Golden Core realm would be difficult. "Friend Lu, do you need pills?" Jiang Hao asked. "I've already bought all I need." Lu Mantian smiled. Jiang Hao didn't say much but changed the topic. "Friend Lu, regarding the information about the ancient scrolls, what have you observed?" "Nothing." Lu Mantian shook his head. "I heard that the water in the Sea-Sky Forest is finally under control, but there are still some corpses inside. They are currently being subdued. But the cause remains unknown." Jiang Hao nodded. It seemed like there was really no major problem there. The corpses were truly waking in the west. After that, Lu Mantian got up and left. Jiang Hao waited. These days, the mountain sea seal was concealing the surroundings, and something would happen soon. After that, Jiang Hao drank the tea and listened to the sound of the river. No one came to disturb him. It was quite peaceful. The next day, a middle-aged man arrived at the Thousand Springs River. "I am Ji Qing from the ancient river sect," said the middle-aged man who stood in front of Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao was surprised. This person was powerful. So, he invited him to sit. "I've come to deliver some things," Ji Qing said as he put a box of tea leaves on the table. "These are the tea leaves from our sect. I hope you like them." Jiang Hao was puzzled. "I heard that you killed Granny Kufa. I had a grudge with her but couldn't kill her. It's unexpected but nice that you managed to do that. Please accept this as a small token of appreciation," said Ji Qing politely. Jiang Hao opened the pack of tea leaves and saw a unique aura on them. There was no fragrance, but there was a type of coolness to them. Even the circulation of spiritual energy became smoother. The tea leaves seemed to be of good quality. It wasn't inferior to September Spring at all. If it was of such a good quality, the price might be higher too. If the tea was like September Spring and could heal injuries, it would cost even more. All the senior cultivators not only required excellent tea leaves but also a good taste. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it. "Senior, you are too kind," said Jiang Hao politely. He could go without buying tea leaves for a long time. He had gained a lot on this trip. It was indeed useful to have strength on one's side. If it wasn't enough, it would be disastrous. Ji Qing asked about Granny Kufa. He felt quite emotional. The person he wanted to kill had ended up dead. It made him somewhat sentimental. After that, he stood up, bowed to Jiang Hao, and left. Jiang Hao stood up and bowed in return. Once the other person left, he felt it was about time. The force condensed by the mountain sea seal was almost complete. It seemed like he could leave now. Following this path, he could reach the mountain river valley to check on Zhong and fulfill her request. At the mountain god village, a young woman smiled. "Senior Baizhu, are you planning to go into the mountains?" "Just call me senior sister," said Baizhu, who looked as young as the mountain princess. Qiao Yi stood on the side. She wasn't surprised. It seemed like Princess Baizhu never grew old. She looked the same when she was 18. Even after several hundred years, she remained the same. "Then, you can call me Shoro Jie," Chu Jie said. "Let's go inside," Baizhu said. The one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment was more pleasant than he had expected. Although she couldn't feel many changes, staying by her side made her cultivation smooth. It was no wonder Chu Jie had advanced so quickly. It was truly unbelievable. "Be careful. There are many wild beasts here," said a hunter. Chu Jie smiled in response. Then, the group walked toward the mountain. When they reached the mountainside, the hunters stopped. They didn't follow inside. This was the territory of the mountain god. They didn't dare continue forward. Only the mountain princess could do so. After that, Baizhu and the other two continued to climb up the mountain. On the way, they saw a cave. "This is it," Chu Jie said. "It gives off a very violent aura, Qiao Yi said in concern. If the aura went out of control, she had no way of surviving it. It's all right. Let's go in, or it'll become even more violent, said Chu Jie with a smile. Chapter 858. This child must be from our academy. When did you discover this place, Shoro Jie? Baizhu asked while she walked along an illuminated passage. As Chu Jie walked ahead, a pure white bird flew beside her. The temperature around them dropped. A dim light was cast into the distance. When I was flying on my sword, I passed by and saw flames here. I sensed a powerful force and tried to intervene. I realized that I could stabilize the force, so I flew down. I didn't know it would take a while, said Chu Jie. Isn't it a waste of time? Baizhu asked. She wondered if Chu Jie's powers could be used for something more important. Waste of time? Chu Jie smiled. I never had a purpose to begin with, but now I do. So, how could this be a waste of time if it's helping someone? Baizhu nodded and didn't say much. After that, they arrived at a huge cave. The flames rolled, and beneath them, a powerful force stirred. Above the flames, there was a clear force that absorbed everything. Chu Jie walked to the center of the flames and sat cross-legged on the ground. She absorbed the raging force. As time passed, a gentle force emanated from her. It gathered above. The Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment slowly absorbed the violent force. Finally, it hovered above. Baizhu looked surprised. This process was not easy, and Chu Jie absorbed the force, neutralized, and condensed it. Baizhu felt that it was a waste of her talent. As the sun was about to set, the violent aura diminished significantly. Although it was still surging, it wouldn't harm anything. Chu Jie stood up and walked out of the magma. Baizhu couldn't help but ask, aren't you going to take that force for yourself? Chu Jie looked up and shook her head with a smile. No need. Why? Qiao Yi asked. Because it's useless to me. Absorbing it would be a waste. It's better to leave it for those who need it. Chu Jie replied. Useless? Qiao Yi found it hard to believe. Absorbing this pure force would significantly enhance one's cultivation realm. How could it be useless? She didn't know how to respond. But if you leave it here, what if someone evil comes here and absorbs such power? Wouldn't that be a waste? Baizhu asked. Chu Jie thought for a moment and said, let's say there are 100 people in the village. Let's say that 50 people are good while the other 50 are evil. If there was some danger, would you choose to save only the good ones? Baizhu frowned. Chu Jie smiled. Good and evil are just that. If you only see evil, you'll decide to leave them to die without a thought. If you feel that the people are good, you will save them without a thought. At the end of the day, it's a choice. There are consequences to everything we do. Baizhu was stunned. Qiao Yi felt taken aback. It's almost time. The uncles will be waiting for us. Let's go, said Chu Jie. Jiang Hao sensed it. There was a presence here. He looked up at the sky. The mountain sea seal had faded away. A bright white light shone down, and 4 pieces of jade appeared on it. Jiang Hao reached out to grab them. The 3 people who had just arrived also saw the 4 jade pieces. They felt a strong ancient aura. It was extraordinary. What is this? Jing Dajiang was astonished. The aura of the ancient pages. Grab them. The bearded old man said immediately. The 3 people took action. Jiang Hao was startled. The terrifying aura seemed to want to crush him. The 3 people each grabbed a piece. Jiang Hao dared not think too much and reached for the last piece. Soon, the jade pendant was bound by his power and began to fall. However, the other 3, although bound, suddenly flickered. The 3 jade pieces broke free from the restraint and rushed into the sky. This sudden change surprised Jiang Hao. Those 3 people were not ordinary. Why couldn't they catch the pieces? The jade pendants of fortune, 4 of them, D*MN. Why so many? Jing Dajiang complained. 1 piece is missing, the bearded old man said. The 3 were surprised. They looked above the Thousand Spirits River. What they saw surprised them. The person there had a plain face and an ordinary appearance, but light shone around him. The earth glittered brightly where he stood. The surroundings seemed vibrant somehow. His every move could make or break the West. All things centered around him. For a moment, they felt that this extraordinary person was from the ancient land. It was awe-inspiring. In an instant, the feeling vanished. What they saw was a restrained divine light and a powerful being with a calm aura that could soothe all things. "This child must be from our astronomical academy," Jing Dajiang exclaimed. What they had felt couldn't be wrong. This person had extraordinary talent. There's something off about him. It's a pity the chef disappeared. Otherwise, we could have caught her and questioned her. She looked at him quite closely that time, the beardless old man said in regret. He is holding the jade pendant of fortune. He's definitely not an ordinary person. Let's go and greet him, Jing Dajiang said. Then, the three instantly disappeared and arrived above the Thousand Springs River. He was astonished but was frightened by the arrival of Jing Dajiang and others. He was honored to see such powerful elders here, but why had they come here? "Are you from the Astronomical Academy, fellow disciple?" Jing Dajiang shouted. The people below were surprised. So, this person was from the Astronomical Academy. It was no wonder he could casually kill Granny Kufa. Jiang Hao stood still in place. When he saw Jing Dajiang and the others, he was stunned. That vast aura left him in shock. What level of power is this? Why does he think him from the Astronomical Academy? "Senior, who are you?" Jiang Hao clenched his fist. He didn't want to reveal his identity. "I am Jing Dajiang. You don't need to call me senior. You can call me Dajiang," said Jing Dajiang. "May I ask who you are?" Ji, said Jiang Hao. "Jing Dajiang." Jiang Hao realized he was a big shot from the academy. Why is such a person outside the academy right now? But it seemed Jing Dajiang couldn't see through him like Liu Ying had done. It seemed the chef of the noodle shop was indeed extraordinary. Even such a powerful person didn't immediately know he was Ji Jin. He breathed a sigh of relief. This was good. Ji. For a moment, the three were somewhat surprised. They thought about the convergence of the ancient and the modern world. Jing Dajiang tried to see through the person in front of him but couldn't. He was unable to see who this person was. He decided to find out more. In any case, he would try to take him to the Astronomical Academy first. Chapter 859, Journey with Jing Dajiang. Lu Mantian walked on the road and continued forward. He looked at the surroundings as if searching for something. He was deep in thought. At that moment, he took out a spirit stone. He bit into it and swallowed it. Suddenly, the sky rumbled. A white light soared in the sky. It was a jade pendant. Lu Mantian watched the jade pendant fly through the air. He smiled softly. He continued onward. Meanwhile, in the mountain god village, after leaving the cave with Chu Jie, Baizhu enjoyed a nice dinner prepared by the villagers. Baizhu suddenly realized something. She had never cared whether these people were good or evil because it had nothing to do with her. She had just passed through this village and needed a place to stay. She didn't care whether they were good or evil because it was of no use to her. The reason was that they couldn't hurt her, irrespective of whether they were good people or not. So, she had never thought of them as anyone of use or as a threat. It seems I was too self-absorbed. It looks like I'm not suitable for the four great emptiness, after all. Baizhu laughed. At night, she and Chu Jie sat in the courtyard and gazed at the starry sky. They enjoyed the peace of the night sky. "Is your cultivation advancing smoothly?" Baizhu suddenly asked. "In this world, there probably isn't anyone who has as much advantage as me," said Chu Jie. "I feel that as people gain something, they lose something as well. I have some thoughts about what I would lose. But, it'll be my choice. Isn't it too soon? You're still so young," Baizhu sighed. "How old are you, senior sister Baizhu?" "I just turned 18 last year." "Oh, I'm in my 20s. Qiao Yi was bewildered. She couldn't believe Chu Jie was in her 20s. She didn't look like she was lying. Was it really possible for a 20-year-old to be in the primordial spirit realm? Suddenly, a bright light flashed through the sky. The three saw two streaks of light whizzing by. What is that? Baizhu asked. The lights had come and gone too quickly. Baizhu wanted to ask again, but the lights seemed to return. A white jade pendant fell in front of Chu Jie, and another circled around Baizhu. It looked unsure whether she was the right person. Baizhu frowned. She didn't feel like she wanted this pendant. Things related to the one with the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment weren't for someone as ordinary as her. Suddenly, the white jade pendant hesitated and then fell in front of Baizhu. It seemed to have made its mind. What is this? Chu Jie asked. Baizhu thought of what Liu Ying had said before. In the vortex of fate, both she and the one with the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment were involved. In the Thousand Springs River, Jiang Hao looked at the three people. He was unsure what to say to them. He couldn't tell them he was Jiyu Jin. It would attract too much attention. Disciple Jiyu, you have obtained the Jade Pendant of Fortune. It seems something big is going to happen, said Jing Dajiang solemnly. These things don't appear often, but when they do, it means something big is going to happen. It might be related to the sage's pages. Can it guide me to find them? Jiang Hao asked curiously. Maybe. We didn't get one, so we don't know, said Jing Dajiang. Seniors, none of you could catch it? Jiang Hao asked. Yes, said Jing Dajiang. Every major event will affect the situation in the West. Only those involved in the vortex of fate can catch it. Jiang Hao understood. It seemed that there were 4 people in the vortex. He nodded and didn't say anything more. He could only take one step at a time. Going back was almost impossible, so he had to go forward. As long as he avoided the corpses, there should be no major problems. If he completed his tasks and left the West, no one would come after him. Moreover, the havoc the corpses create in the West might not affect the South. What are your plans for the future, Disciple Jiyu? Jing Dajiang asked. I plan to visit the mountain river valley, Jiang Hao said truthfully. Jing Dajiang was delighted. It seems we all have something in common with the academy. The 3 of us are also planning to make a trip there. Let's go together. Jiang Hao felt that this person always tried to repeatedly mention the academy. He was supposed to be from the academy, so he didn't object. After that, he left with Hong Yuye. Jing Dajiang and the others followed. The people around them were surprised. The news of Senior Jiyu killing Granny Kufa had spread like wildfire. Those who had refused to believe it now accepted it as a fact. Some major sects felt much better knowing someone from the Astronomical Academy had killed Granny Kufa. Otherwise, they would have lost all respect if she had been killed by some ordinary cultivator. Everyone was pleased. 3 days later, around late July, outside the Mountain River Valley sect, the astronomical scroll revolved around a black sphere. It emitted a faint aura. It had been several months. Many people felt that the person inside was going to die because the death aura kept leaking out. The corruption and darkness corrupted almost everything. Even with the astronomical scroll, it was useless. People occasionally attacked it. They had no intention of leaving. It's been so long, and so many people are still attacking the sphere. It seems that Dole has offended many people, Senior Sister Lin said. The others didn't feel anything. Dole was just an ordinary disciple. If he died, no one would care much. That was the outcome of getting involved with the Astronomical Academy. If one didn't have such great strength, it was better to stay away from people who did. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Jiang Hao flew on his sword and finally landed on a distant hillside. He looked for the fallen aura. The demonic aura is so intense. Zhong was already on the brink. She might actually succumb to it. Was there a way to help her? I remember there was someone trying to probe the inside of that dark sphere, but they were trapped, said Jing Dajiang. Then, he took Jiang Hao to the nearby woods. A man stood frozen there. It was Guan Zhongfei. Jiang Hao felt quite sentimental meeting him here again. Chapter 860. If you don't kill them, who will? Guan Zhongfei still bore the mark of the mountain sea seal. Jiang Hao had deliberately left them to scare him. He could retrieve it, but he was in no hurry. He seems to be trapped. He probably saw or heard something he shouldn't have, said the beardless old man. The end of all things. Jiang Hao looked toward the black sphere. Not only them. The Great Thousand God sect is also involved, said Jing Dajiang. They can be quite annoying. What is her inner demon? Jiang Hao asked. You can go in and see for yourself. Jing Dajiang approached Guan Zhongfei. Normally, we wouldn't check it rashly. But this person happened to witness it at the right time, so we can make use of that. Jing Dajiang placed his hand on Guan Zhongfei's shoulder. He then flicked his hand and cast a spell that covered everyone. Immediately, Jiang Hao felt the surroundings change. Soon, they appeared in a place where a scholar was reading something aloud. It was the Astronomical Academy. A young woman in her 20s walked while joyfully reading a book. She looked dignified yet gentle. Jiang Hao and the others followed her. They arrived at a simple house. It was the young woman's house. It was clean and well organized. She approached the desk, where books and ink were neatly placed. She sat down with a smile and began writing a letter. Mother, father, are you both doing well? Are you taking the medicine I sent you? I bought some more spirit medicine that can cure hidden illnesses. Let me share some good news with you. I feel I can break through the Golden Core realm soon. Once I do, I'll use the Academy's teleportation array to return. It may be half a month later than expected, but that's okay. By then, you'll be able to see your daughter at the Golden Core realm. Please don't push yourselves. If there's anything, wait for me to come back and help. I'm in good health now and can handle all the farm work. The young woman smiled softly as she wrote the letter. She used the Academy's flying sword system to send the letter. Once done, she walked into a room and started cultivating. After a little over a month, the young woman emerged from the closed room again. She looked excited. She had made it to the early stage of the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao and the others watched silently. How could there be positive memories in an inner demon? As they watched her leave, Jiang Hao and the others followed. She spent all the Academy points in exchange for a round trip. The teleportation array didn't lead to her home but to a city. It would take about half a day to fly there, but for her, that was no longer a problem. She went to the city. She bought some delicious food, some tools, and some clothes. Only then did she use her sword to return. Jiang Hao watched her. Her joy at getting to meet her family again was apparent on her face. However, halfway through, chaos unfolded. What should have been a village was now a sea of fire. Her heart sank. She descended hastily to investigate. She saw an elderly man screaming frantically at the edge of the inferno as if he had lost his mind. Demons. They are all demons. Please don't kill me. The young woman froze. Demons. How could that be? There are no demonic sects nearby. She would have never let her parents stay if there was a danger of demonic sects here. She didn't feel good. Without hesitation, she activated her golden core power and used her sword to return. Her cheerful mood was replaced by anxiety. Jiang Hao and the others followed in silence. Her speed was swift, but she heard more screams as she got closer to her parents' house. Cultivators slaughtered everyone who got in their way. The young woman looked down. She gritted her teeth and flew toward her home. Soon, she arrived at her mountain village. She looked at her home. The protective barrier was broken, and a man with a long sword had killed an old couple. No. Stop. The young woman rushed over to them. The man laughed as though he enjoyed killing innocent people. Her golden core aura erupted. Boom. The young woman forced everyone around her to retreat. She rushed to the old woman's side. The middle-aged man was already dying. Mother. Father. She took out some pills in a panic. She fed them the healing pills. Her father couldn't swallow them, and her mother coughed and vomited them out. The young woman tried to use her golden core aura to try and heal them. However, it was all in vain. They were beyond saving. Why isn't it working? Why? Tears streamed down her face. Mother, I bought rouge for you. It's the one you like. The young woman turned to the dying man. Father, you wanted to go hunting, right? I bought you a bow and some arrows. I bought clothes too. Mother, please, At that moment, someone flew over on a sword. What a pretty girl. Let's take her with us. The young woman looked up in rage. A storm of murderous intent swept over like a hurricane. The sudden force frightened the newcomer, and he stepped back in fear. He then turned and fled. Her killing intent had risen. She wanted to kill everyone there. However, at that moment, a blood-stained hand suddenly lifted and touched her. Don't look at them like that," said a weak voice. "Mother, how can I save you? There's no need for that." The old woman looked at her. "Don't cry. You look undignified." "I don't want to look dignified right now, Mother. I want you to be safe." The young woman wiped her tears away. "Have you advanced in your cultivation?" asked the woman. I don't want the golden core realm if it's useless to save you. If only I had come here sooner, you would have been fine. If I hadn't stopped to shop, I could have saved you." The young woman was heartbroken. If only she could have arrived sooner. "We won't be gone," said the old woman. "We'll watch over you. We'll watch you grow into a powerful woman. You might not be able to see us, but we'll always be there." "I don't want that. I went to the academy so that I could give you a better life. I want to watch you grow old and happy. I don't want this." The young woman shook her head. Her hurt was replaced by blind rage again. "Are you angry?" said a voice. "You should be. Those who killed your parents live a happy and carefree life. They watch you mockingly. For them, killing your parents was nothing. Nothing." "Shut up," shouted the young woman. "Shut up. The one who should shut up is you. Your parents gave birth to you, raised you, struggled for you, and gave up everything. Have you forgotten the time when you were sick? They knelt and begged the entire village just to gather enough money for your treatment. Have you forgotten the time when you wanted to study? They worked hard day and night just to earn a little more for you to have an education. Have you forgotten how you entered the academy? They carried you through mountains and rivers. Your father injured his leg on the way, yet he managed to take you to the academy on time. Now, they are dead. What have you done for them? You don't dare to act recklessly so you can be safe. You hide and endure. You're a disappointment. If you have no strength, I'll lend you mine. Get up, pick your sword, and look. Look at the faces of those murderers. If you don't kill them, who will?" The voice echoed in the surroundings and the words struck her heart like knives. Chapter 861. On the way to immortality, the voice left the young woman unsure. The sword had already appeared in her hand, but her mother wouldn't let go of her. "Don't be angry. Don't think about revenge. It'll only destroy you," said the old woman. The young woman looked down at the blood-stained face of her mother. "Listen to me, my daughter. Your father and I have lived for a long time. Our only wish is to see you grow. Hatred will make you lose your humanity. It'll become a hurdle in your path of knowledge," said the old woman as her pale face regained its radiance. It was as though life had returned to her body. "Promise me," said the old woman as she held onto her tightly. "You disappointed your parents," said the voice again. The young woman found herself in a dilemma. "It's all right. Don't be rash. I'll watch over you, my daughter. Your father and we'll be there for you, always. Everything will be fine," said the old woman tenderly. The young woman looked at her parents. Her anger was replaced by tears. It streamed down her face. She put down the sword in her hand and hugged her mother tightly. "Mother," she sobbed. I forgot so many things. I never go against your words. I have always listened to you. I have never done things in hatred or spite. I'll continue to do what you have taught me. Mother, father, I miss you so much. It's okay. We are always with you," said the old woman and patted her on the shoulders. "Remember, study well. Don't forget to eat on time. And don't ever let anyone bully you." "I will. Don't worry. Nobody bullies me, I promise," said the young woman and cried. "How are your studies?" asked the woman gently. "It's good. I'm going to be an immortal soon." "Immortal?" The old woman paled. "Like those mighty immortals who wreaked havoc here?" "No." The young woman looked at her mother. "I'll never be like them. I'll still be me. I still am the same young woman who wanted to protect and shield you. I'll stay here and protect this place. An ordinary immortal. Silly girl, you shouldn't stay here. You should go out. You belong to the vast world outside. The young woman shook her head. I don't want to. I never wanted to become an immortal in the eyes of the world. I studied and entered the academy just to become an immortal for our family. I wanted to become stronger for you and father. I don't need anyone's approval. I just wanted to be here and protect you, keep you safe. At that moment, the old woman's face turned pale. She looked at her daughter. Is it difficult to become an immortal? Yes. Then, your father and I, will help you. We'll help you get there. Then, she closed her eyes. In the next moment, her body began to disperse. It turned into a beam of light and soared into the sky. At the same time, the middle-aged man beside her also turned into a beam of light. She could feel a hand patting her head. After that, they both rushed toward the sky. They dispelled the darkness and illuminated a path leading to the heavens. At the edge of the path, there was a faint light. It prevented the darkness from engulfing everything. The young woman stood up and looked toward the sky. At that moment, the ground beneath her feet shattered, and a new path was forged to immortality. How is this possible? What about your inner demon? Someone exclaimed in the dark. Are you really going to watch your parents die? Don't you care about them? Don't you regret it? The young woman looked up at the two beams of light. How could my parents harm me? They loved me the most. You only see some things and twist them. You don't see how they sacrificed for me, so I would be a better person. They raised me well. You don't understand what a parent's love feels like. But I forgot so much, so much. The more I listen to you, the deeper I sink into the abyss. But my mother saw everything. The young woman smiled and stepped forward. At that moment, the world changed, and a dazzling light enveloped everything. I can accept everything about myself, be it good or evil. I don't care if I am admired or despised. I can accept it all. For me, this is who I am, and there's no use in escaping myself. The only thing I was worried about was my parents scolding. Every step the young woman took rejuvenated the earth. She seemed to have found peace. But they didn't scold me, not at all. In an instant, the scene changed. Time flowed rapidly. The village was rebuilt, and the young woman walked to the grave. It was the grave of her parents. She leaned down and cleared away some weeds. She then lit some incense. She opened her mouth to say something but couldn't find the words. Tears streamed down her face. Things changed and people changed. Nothing lasted. Jiang Hao watched all this. Father, mother, I'm leaving, said the young woman with a smile. After that, she stepped into the sky. She walked toward immortality. That is not possible. How did you do it? Said a voice from the shadows. Jing Dajiang sighed. She has never really dug deeper into her emotions. It seems she has done it now. Has she really let go of her hatred? Jiang Hao asked curiously. Let go. Jing Dajiang shook his head with a smile. If she had done that, she wouldn't have come here. Jiang Hao was surprised. I asked around. When her parents were killed, she was taken over by her inner demon. When the people from the academy found her, she was covered in wounds and drenched in blood, Jing Dajiang said. After that, they found out that this young woman had gone crazy. Fueled by hatred, she killed all the demonic sect members around her. She had even managed to kill primordial spirit realm cultivators around her. It is said that the sky was filled with blood and a strong killing intent, as if someone had entered the path of slaughter. Not a single demonic sect cultivator was spared. That would mean the end for her. But somehow, she was found at her parents' grave the next day. She forgot everything when she woke up. She only remembered that she had obeyed her mother and let go of her hatred. But the seed of the inner demon still remained in her heart, and once there was an opportunity to become an immortal, the heart demon would take root and sprout. Jiang Hao was surprised. How did she do it? It was somewhat extraordinary that she had forgotten everything, especially since she had also forgotten about becoming an immortal. The inner demon was suppressed until the end. It was incredible. There are two explanations. 1. She is extraordinary. 2. A powerful figure must have passed by and couldn't bear to see her suffer, so they helped her out, Jing Dajiang said. Chapter 862, Ascending to Immortality Beyond the Mountains and Rivers. Many people were still paying attention to the dark sphere, even though it had been many years. In recent days, the number of people watching had increased. Everyone could sense that the aura of death was spreading. The sphere was about to dissipate. Most people wanted to witness the death of the person inside the sphere. Some wanted Dole, while others wanted the one from the Astronomical Academy to fail. Regardless, there were very few who hoped for those inside to come out alive. Some of Dole's seniors didn't want him to live either because they knew that Dole might become even more powerful because of the person from the Astronomical Academy. It was human nature to feel like that. Even on the cultivation path, such things always affected people if they weren't mature enough. Senior sister Lin looked outside. She felt complicated. She didn't know Dole too well, but he had given her some spirit stones. If he died, the spirit stones would be hers. If he lived, she had to return the spirit stones. That wasn't a problem at all for her. She was curious about Dole. If he managed to survive, she would gladly return the spirit stones and extend a hand of friendship. Perhaps one day, she might need him. She realized that she was judging a person based on their usefulness, just like everyone else. She thought she wouldn't be like that, but it seemed everyone was defined by what they could offer. Unfortunately, it seemed Dole might not survive. Darkness had already covered everything. Dole is doomed. I knew it would come to this, said a man smugly. We should take this as a lesson. Associating with an immortal sect is not always a good thing, said a woman. Others nodded in agreement. Senior sister Lin shook her head. There were also people in the Mountain River Valley sect who were secretly watching the dark sphere. His vitality was about to dissipate. Some sighed, while others rejoiced. Just then, the vitality in the high sky dissipated. It seemed that everyone inside was about to die. If Dole didn't die, he would come out soon. Those targeting Dole were ready to deliver a fatal blow. Crack. The black sphere began to crack, and the astronomical scroll descended slowly. Many lowered their heads and sighed. It was finally over. However, just as some were about to take action, a faint light emerged from the cracks. Then, the light spread throughout the black sphere. It felt as if the black sphere was about to erupt with light. After that, the colors of the world changed, and a celestial energy gathered. A heavenly path appeared in the sky. It dazzled everyone. The path of immortality attacked the black sphere. Boom! The black sphere erupted. A figure manifested in the sky. She stood there as if she were a goddess from ninth heaven. Beside her was an unconscious man. Yang Yuezhi bowed and then stepped into the sky. She embarked on the path of immortality. Everyone was in shock. Dole was unconscious, but he was still within the range of the immortal path. Even being there was enormously beneficial for him. At that moment, those who had intended to make a move retreated. They didn't dare to linger there. The person from the Astronomical Academy had succeeded. No one dared to go after Dole now. If someone dared to do that, the one from the Astronomical Academy would annihilate their entire bloodline. Many people were reluctant to act. They knew this woman would come for revenge. The disciples of the Mountain River Valley sect were astonished. They wished they were in Dole's shoes right now. Senior sister Lin breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed she would get to know Dole a bit more. Many in the sect thought the same. Even those who had mocked and insulted him before wanted to get to know him. Even the sect master didn't think Dole was this fortunate. Guan Zhongfei also woke up. He had been trapped all this while. He thought he had seen a lot, but he couldn't remember properly. He was amazed to find that Dole hadn't died but had gained significant opportunities. He felt something strange. The marks on his body seemed to have disappeared. He checked all around. At that moment, he found a book beside him. It recorded a technique. There was also a note attached to it. We used your gaze. This is a gift for you. Guan Zhongfei felt nervous. He instantly thought of smiling San Sheng. Is it him? The one from the Astronomical Academy had succeeded, and Dole had gained even more opportunities. Guan Zhongfei wondered if smiling San Sheng had intervened. He broke into a cold sweat. He had done everything smiling San Sheng had told him to do. Otherwise, it would have been disastrous. Jiang Hao and his group had already left, but the distant immortal path was still visible. Jiang Hao sighed with emotion. After making sure everything was okay, they left. The Great Thousand God sect and the end of all things had no connection with them. Jing Dajiang wanted to follow them but decided not to. Jiang Hao asked him why. With the jade pendant of fortune in your hands, a vortex is about to form. It's better not to get too close. The three of them left reluctantly. They asked if Jiang Hao had brought any identity tokens from the academy. Jiang Hao shook his head. Then a piece of paper fell into his hand, with the words backyard written on it. There was also a passage that he couldn't see clearly. This kind of token was quite remarkable. Finally, Jing Dajiang said, "Friend, don't lose it again." He then left. Jiang Hao didn't reject it. The identity of Jiyu Jin was troublesome. But there were advantages too. The jade pendant of fortune seemed to be related to the sage's pages. Perhaps he would be the one to find those pages. The vortex is about to form, Hong Yuye said suddenly. Jiang Hao was puzzled. The jade pendant of fortune is even more extraordinary than lucky treasures. Do you think someone lacking luck and karma will give up? Hong Yuye asked. Jiang Hao thought of something. The corpses might come to seize the jade pendant or the person holding it. He realized that he could practice and comprehend better with the jade pendant in his hand. That was a good thing. He wondered if it could be used to digest the divine soul of the Holy Master. If it could, he would save a lot of spirit stones. Chapter 863. It seems like Jiyu Jin is gone. If the laid pendant of fortune can digest the divine soul of the Holy Master and could be used with the clear and pure heart ability, that would be great. But I need to find a place to try it out. There was no city nearby. Jiang Hao stopped near a big lake. Senior, let's rest here for a while. The view was great. As soon as he arrived, Jiang Hao started making tea. Do you still remember your parents? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. I do, Jiang Hao said cautiously while making tea. Were they good to you? Hong Yuye asked again. Jiang Hao paused. He knew Hong Yuye was asking him that because of Zhong. After thinking for a moment, he said, they were okay but not too great. Sometimes they were good to him, but other times, they were neglectful. They did provide him with food and raised him. As he grew older, he began to appreciate the goodness of people. He slowly forgot their flaws and was filled with nostalgia. Do you think the girl reached far because of her parents? Hong Yuye asked. Do you mean from the beginning? Jiang Hao asked. Yes. Hong Yuye nodded. Jiang Hao thought for a moment. I think she probably had good parents. Human emotions are sometimes very strange. They are like a double-edged sword. Emotions can accomplish great things that might seem impossible, but they can also make things difficult. When someone is alone in the world, they can achieve many things, but it can get lonely. It might feel peaceful, but one will feel too alone in the world. There will be no inner peace. Is that so? Hong Yuye looked at Jiang Hao. What kind of person are you? Jiang Hao was stunned. His parents had long disappeared, and he dared not get too involved with others. Surviving was already difficult for him, and it was just too easy to offend people. If he got too involved with someone, it would harm them too. Xiao Li had been targeted before. If she weren't talented, the consequences would have been dire. After hesitating for a moment, he said, I am the type of person who wants to walk alone. Hong Yuye Red Rain Leaf looked at the person in front of her. She continued drinking her tea. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. He had no answer to some questions. Fortunately, he didn't have to answer them. He walked to the side and began to examine the jade pendant of fortune. He wanted to see what the limits of the pendant were. But before that, he first looked at the tea leaves that were gifted to him. There were only 10 packs left. He already had 10 more packs of September Spring. For the next 10 years, he wouldn't run out of good tea. He could even drink it twice a year. He no longer hesitated. Jiang Hao took out the divine soul of the Holy Master, then drew a formation and replaced the spirit stones with the jade pendant of fortune. He activated the formation. Jiang Hao felt the divine soul of the Holy Master separated by the jade pendant of fortune. It then melted into his body. It wasn't as fast as using spirit stones, but it was enough. He could use 10,000 a day. It would last him 10 days. In just 80 days, he could completely absorb the divine soul of the Holy Master. By then, the mountain sea seal would become stronger. As long as the divine soul of the Holy Master was there to be devoured, it might become the strongest ability. With the heavenly blade blessed by such a seal, the power would be astonishing. Jiang Hao was excited. He felt like he could stay here for 2 months. But it wasn't possible. He didn't have that much time. It would be best to find the sage's pages before meeting the corpses and then return to the south. After that, he activated the clear and pure heart as he held the jade pendant of fortune in his hand. For a moment, he felt a chill all over his body, followed by a coolness rising straight to the top of his head. That kind of clarity made him feel like he could solve all the problems of the world. Inspiration struck him. It showed him insight into his cultivation issues. Jiang Hao began to understand all realms. Such opportunities were rare and much more important than digesting the divine soul of the Holy Master. Jiang Hao felt like he was moving, and a faint purple mist appeared. His understanding of the realms was much deeper than before. Hong Yuye watched Jiang Hao as he drank his tea. For a moment, the surroundings were too quiet. He heard birds chirping. As time passed, Baizhu was confused. She looked at the jade pendant of fortune. This helped her cultivate better, but it didn't help her curses become stronger. However, the possibility of her curses succeeding was higher. And it cost her much less energy. Such a treasure is too terrifying. Unfortunately, it's like a curse. Such a powerful thing had ended up in her hands. She knew it was related to her fiery luck. This thing could kill people. Chu Jie smiled. This is quite useful, especially for the power of the great mountain. This can be used to regulate that violent force. Qiao Yi asked. She had just touched it and her cultivation started improving instantly. It was simply a divine object. How was it so effective? Although this is extraordinary, it is of no use to me. Or, I can say that I'm better than this, said Chu Jie. That statement would sound smug to other people. But Qiao Yi didn't hear even a hint of ego from her. She just stated it as a fact. Who exactly is this person? Chu Jie held the jade pendant. It seems like we don't have much time. What's wrong? Baizhu didn't sense anything. Her cultivation was much stronger than the person in front of her, but in terms of perception, she still lagged behind. It seems to be related to the ancient pages. I feel a vortex appearing, and we are all in it. We can't escape unless the vortex ignores us, said Chu Jie. The ancient pages have appeared. Baizhu exclaimed. Chu Jie sensed it and then pointed to the south. It's in that direction. Baizhu was surprised. That was where the gentian heart was. Then, she asked about the other end of the vortex. Chu Jie shook her head. I don't know the details, but it feels completely different. Something is happening. There are immortal sects in the West. They should be able to handle it, right? Baizhu asked. Chu Jie smiled but didn't say anything. Baizhu sighed. The vortex was troublesome. Since it was already there, she had to accept it. On a withered giant stone, a middle-aged man held the jade pendant with a smile. What extraordinary timing. The end of all things indeed knows how to handle things well. They even brought the jade pendant of fortune. Heaven is on my side. He had a bit of stubble, and his body was filled with death aura. The sage's pages are all out. This time, I want to see who comes to snatch it. Jiyu Jin should be gone by now. Otherwise, the moment I appear, he will have arrived. Who in the West can prevent me from resurrecting myself? He laughed heartily. I need to find something to keep the people from the academy occupied. Chapter 864, A Competition of Luck in the Sea Sky Forest, Seawater covered everything. The corpse sea surged and devoured everything. Boom! The corpse sea erupted. A figure was sent flying. Li Sanyuan struggled to get up and spit out a mouthful of blood. He looked down in disbelief. He was even more shocked as he looked around. Everything had become a sea of corpses as far as the eye could see. He had already left the barrier. Why was it still like this? Iwovo old people walked out of the corpse sea. Saw it. They were the corpse extinction elders. What have you done? Li Sanyuan asked. The corpse sea had submerged everything. Chapter 865. If one don't go, who will? What's wrong with the sky? It seems a bit dark, Qiao Yi asked. It's not dark enough yet. Chu Jie smiled and said, let's go. We still need to go up the mountain. Baizhu nodded. She didn't know what to do, but there was a tremendous force around. Qiao Yi was puzzled. Baizhu asked her to find out more about the situation. She flew outside on her sword. She discovered that a great war had broken out in the west. It was nearby. After thinking for a moment, she followed someone there to take a look. At that moment, she felt what true terror was. There was a shimmering light in the sky and continuous explosions. The earth shook and the shockwaves swept in all directions. The divine rotation sect is so strong. I heard that some places can't hold them back anymore, someone said. You think too much. I heard there aren't many people here, and the divine rotation sect can't hold on for long. What should we do then? How would I know? Let's run away from here. Qiao Yi listened warily. Just as she was about to leave, an aura emanated from the sky. In an instant, a group of scholars flew through the air. Spells flashed around them. They gradually descended. It felt as if 10,000 mountains were exerting their pressure. These people were that powerful. It forced back the army of corpses. The Astronomical Academy is here. People became excited. The immortal sect had taken action. Qiao Yi watched carefully. The people from the immortal sect were so powerful that it was suffocating. Later, she returned to the mountain god village. Baizhu just nodded when she told her about the situation. Chu Jie helplessly said, I am not an enemy to those corpses. After that, she continued to stabilize the violent force. The attitudes of these two people puzzled Qiao Yi. Aren't you nervous? Don't you plan to deal with it? Auntie Qiao, isn't there an immortal sect for that? If they can't handle it, what can we do? Said Baizhu. The corpses could be ignored for now. Other things needed her attention. Meanwhile, Jing Dajiang stood on a high peak and looked at the western land. What should we do? The bearded old man asked. What indeed? Can't it be controlled? That person didn't count on these corpse armies for nothing. He wanted to stall the academy. Let him do his thing for now, said Jing Dajiang and smiled. If he succeeds, it means that the jade pendant has been devoured. There are 4 people connected to the vortex. If none of them can stop it, we can make a move. We? The bearded old man frowned. We are not in the vortex. There will be consequences if we take action. The West will be devastated. Jing Dajiang looked into the distance. He appeared calm. Let's have some tea and wait. They don't have much time, and those corpses won't take too long. The 2 old men were somewhat shocked. They understood what Jing Dajiang meant. Around early September, a middle-aged man looked up at the sky from atop a giant rock. At that point, the vortex had already formed. But still, no one came to challenge him. All 3 are avoiding me. Are they forcing my hand? The middle-aged man smiled and looked in the distance. Since that's the case, I'll do as you wish. The middle-aged man opened his hands and resonated with the vortex. The corpse clan merged with the heavens and the earth. At that moment, the fortune tied to him started to surge and sweep across the west. The vortex would guide him to find the other 3 people. He wasn't in a hurry to find them. It would be boring if he found them too soon. He wanted to force the people out. For a while, the death aura covered the entire earth. It intended to assimilate into all living beings. A brilliant aura rose into the sky. Countless scholars in the West recited the teachings of sages to resist the death aura. There were many powerful people from the academy present. At that moment, a majestic voice echoed across the land. The current academy seems to be no longer as formidable as the academy of the past. The middle-aged man smiled. Your efforts, unfortunately, are not enough. The death aura covered everything. Come. I am waiting for you here. Let me see who can share the jade pendant of fortune with me. At that moment, thunder roared. In the mountain god village, Baizhu followed Chu Jie up the mountain. Today should be enough. This jade pendant is indeed useful, Chu Jie said with a smile. Baizhu nodded. Yes, it is really a good thing. Qiao Yi didn't know what they were talking about. The situation outside was very critical. If they didn't escape soon, it would be disastrous. At that moment, thunder roared, followed by a sound only a few people could hear. Chu Jie and Baizhu both heard it. Baizhu looked at Chu Jie, who continued to walk toward the cave as if she hadn't heard anything. Baizhu didn't say anything and just followed quietly. There was nowhere for her to go. She could only follow the person in front of her. Chu Jie went about her daily routine calmly. She was dutiful and meticulous. The power had already spread throughout the cave. If someone discovered and resonated with the power here one day, they would benefit greatly. Qiao Yi didn't know what to say. She felt that this young girl was naive and wasteful. In the evening, Chu Jie walked out of the lava. At that point, the power below had stabilized. There was no more violence in that power. Does it feel safe now? Chu Jie asked. I think so. Nothing should go wrong in at least the next 100 years, said Baizhu. Chu Jie wiped the sweat from her forehead. Finally. Let's go down the mountain. Soon after, the three of them arrived in the village. This time, when Chu Jie bid farewell, the people in the village were reluctant to let them go, but they didn't stop her. After they left the village, Chu Jie said goodbye to Baizhu and Qiao Yi and went her own way. She had her own things to do. But suddenly, the colors of the sky and earth changed, and an endless vortex of clouds appeared high in the sky. Dark clouds pressed down on the city. Qiao Yi was fearful. Where are you going? Baizhu suddenly asked. Chu Jie pointed to the vortex. The timing is just right. I have to go there. Baizhu frowned. You're only in the primordial spirit realm. It's dangerous. You might die. I won't. Chu Jie smiled and said, I am a Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment practitioner. You're still a human, and humans die. Facing such a powerful force will be dangerous even for you, said Baizhu. Chu Jie smiled and shook her head. Don't worry, senior sister. I won't die. I have the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment on my side, she said confidently. Where do you get your confidence? Baizhu felt that this young girl was a bit naive. Even someone with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment could die. Chu Jie smiled and turned around. Even so, if I don't do this, who will? Chapter 866. When I obtained the Heavenly Tao, others suffered. Who will go? Baizhu was stunned. She now understood what the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment required. She also realized she could never do that. In moments like these, she would never put herself in danger. Surviving would always be her first priority. Chu Jie was determined. When I received the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment, many suffered because of it. How can I turn a blind eye to their suffering now? If it were just a fight based on the cultivation realm, I wouldn't bother. But since it involves fortune, that's where I come in. It's my strength. I cannot just ignore it and turn away. But you are too weak right now. You don't need to die here, Baizhu said seriously. Fear will always be there. When are we ever without fear? Will we stop being scared once we become the strongest in the world? And until then, do we just keep hiding and fleeing? Chu Jie said calmly. Baizhu couldn't even respond to that. Chu Jie looked at the sky and then took a step forward. At that moment, the world framed her. A colorful radiance surrounded her, and the Tao chants resonated with her. A bright light soared toward the sky. The vast and majestic fortune began to gather and condense into the form of a great fortune bearer. Baizhu understood why the chef had said she might survive if she followed the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. As long as the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment practitioner remained strong, she wouldn't die. But in the contest of fortune, I can't intervene at all. Even though her fortune was blazing, she still couldn't compare with the one who had the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. Qiao Yi listened to them talk. She found it unbelievable. So, the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment was such a person. She had been too narrow-minded. She was completely unaware of the brilliance of a Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment practitioner. When the light soared toward the sky, many people saw it. In the ancient city, Liu Ying waited with bated breath. It was the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. She's still too weak, but she has no choice. If she doesn't fight, her great fortune won't be able to condense. But it's a pity if she falls like this. A Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment possessing the origin of all fortune is so rare. Liu Ying sighed. The people from the Bright Moon sect may have already arrived. They won't dare to act rashly, but at the last moment, they will definitely take action. At that time, a great battle would inevitably erupt, and the ones to bear the cost in the end would be the people of the West. The old folks from the Astronomical Academy might also take action. On top of a peak, Jing Dajiang and the others saw the radiance and focused their senses on it. The one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment, the bearded old man, was in awe. And there's the origin of great fortune. The Bright Moon sect has found a treasure. It's a pity that she came to the West and got involved in this vortex. Jing Dajiang sighed. If she was careless, it would mean complete annihilation. Boom! Thunder roared. In the sky, two colossal beings collided. At that moment, the middle-aged man on the giant rock frowned. This isn't the fortune of the West. Who is getting involved? Could it be? He was surprised. It's the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. When did she appear? She's too young. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to swallow the person in one bite. For a while, the fortunes in the sky were like two giant beasts in battle. A fierce tiger with a deathly aura bit down on the neck of a white bird. The neck of the flying bird was torn apart. The bird screamed as if it was in agony. Then, it counterattacked. However, it was useless. The fierce tiger leaped and tore the wings of the bird. It was a one-sided massacre. No matter how severely injured it was, the bird flew up again and attacked. The ones watching sighed sadly. The one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment was still too young. Baizhu frowned. She decided to help Chu Jie. She leaped up. She wanted to participate in the fight with her own fortune. But the fortune vortex pressed down on her. The fortune formed by the jade pendant was shattered. Baizhu was shocked. How could this be? In the end, she had no choice but to stop. She looked at the jade pendant of fortune and understood the reason. This jade pendant was not meant for her. It belonged to the person behind her. She could become stronger by using the jade pendant, but she couldn't participate in the struggle within the great vortex. That required the true fortune of the West. Baizhu felt regret and relief at the same time. It wasn't easy to gather the courage to act. On another hillside, Jiang Hao opened his eyes. His aura was like an ancient well of the void. It seemed that his every thought and move could cause a ripple in that well. At that moment, Jiang Hao felt that he had reached the pinnacle of control over his power. He wasn't inferior to Shu Bai in the slightest. As long as he continued to study the Nameless Manual and the Heaven Lock technique, he could even surpass Shu Bai. But he was only thinking of Shu Bai as he had seen him years before in the sect. People grew with time. If he had become stronger, others would have too. At that moment, he felt that the jade pendant was guiding a voice from above. It was a deep voice that reverberated everywhere. Jiang Hao was surprised. He looked up and found that a fight had already broken out. A colossal white bird and a majestic tiger clashed. The tiger roared and shook the sky. The bird was no match for the fierce tiger. Jiang Hao saw that the bird's wings had been torn apart. Yet, the bird rose again and attacked. It never gave up. She has grown so much, said Jiang Hao and sighed. It'll be really difficult for Chu Chuan to catch up to her. Those who didn't understand what the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment was would never realize the terrifying extent of its power. I wonder how Chu Chuan is doing. In the south, a group of people attacked a Foundation establishment realm cultivator. They almost overwhelmed him, and blood splattered on the ground. He's already seriously injured. Just kill him. The man, like a blooded figure, looked at everyone around him. He held a knife and smiled sinisterly. At that moment, he swung his knife desperately. He couldn't give up. He couldn't die here. Basic knife technique. In an instant, the blade flashed. Each slash was stronger than the last. The nearest person was killed. The blade sent the other one flying backward. He moved forward in large strides. He moved forward in large strides. The more he fought, the stronger he became. His speed was extraordinary. His enemies fell with each slash. The remaining people trembled with fear. They were fearful, but the man wielding the blade was excited. His cultivation rose rapidly. Surprisingly, in such a situation, his skills sharpened. After a short while, the last enemy fell. You! What kind of monster are you? In his final moment, the middle-aged man looked at the man before him with horror. If only he had known this before, he wouldn't have provoked this young man. The man lowered his head, sheathed his blade, and calmly said, I won't fall here, and I won't stop. I'm going to the east to establish myself. My blade will cut through mountains and rivers, and my eyes will see the four regions. I will walk a path that no one dares to imagine. No one can stop me. My ultimate goal is to pull down the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment practitioner from her pedestal. At that moment, his body began to glow. Chapter 867. Seeking help from the Demoness. Thunder roared in all directions. Although many people witnessed the battle in the sky, only very few understood what was happening. Meanwhile, people were concerned about the rising corpse army. They needed to confront it on their own. All major sects would participate in the conflict. No one would have to act alone. Not everyone engaged in a battle against the corpses. Some members of demonic sects took advantage of the chaos. They hid and attacked the sects that were still recuperating from the fight. In that way, they became stronger. Such things were not uncommon, and these individuals were often supported by the end of all things. Who can blame us? Weren't you supposed to help the people in the city? We are also citizens of the city, and now we lack spirit stones. You shouldn't keep the spirit stones to yourselves, a middle-aged man said with a smirk. Behind him stood several experts. In front of him, a young man tried to help some heavily injured people. It's difficult for you to fight the corpses alone. Give us the spirit stones, and we'll help you keep an eye around, said the middle-aged man. The young man frowned. Don't give me that look. When we are offering you a way out, you should take it. If we make a move, you'll lose your lives along with your money, said the middle-aged man and sneered. Some of the injured people could only curse under their breath. They couldn't do anything. They were in danger. In the end, they could only give in. They had tried so hard and fought the corpses, only to be exploited by these people. At least these good people are offering something. Otherwise, things would have been even more difficult, right? Said a voice. A figure appeared in the distance. He walked slowly but appeared near the crowd in an instant. It was a middle-aged man with a few white hairs. His aura was calm and soothing. He looked like a scholar. His arrival made everyone suspicious. No one knew which side this person was on. Senior, what are you talking about? The middle-aged man asked. We only intended to help protect these people without any personal gains. The middle-aged man nodded with a smile. Such a thoughtful gesture. He waved his hand. The word slave flew from his hand and landed on their foreheads. Then, guard this place for them, the middle-aged man smiled and said. After that, he walked away. The demonic sect members were terrified. The middle-aged man walked along the road and noticed the changes in the sky. But he didn't hurry. He moved at his own pace. After some time, he arrived at a huge mountain. He passed by a village. It appeared to be deserted. He didn't stay there. He walked toward the cliff behind the mountain. It's a pity I didn't arrive early. Now, I have to wait until they finish. The middle-aged man looked up at the sky. After the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment practitioner loses, the people from the Bright Moon sect and the Astronomical Academy will take action. The problems in the West will start from there. I just don't know when it will end, but the sages' pages can appear anytime now. I wonder if anyone will compete with me for them. The middle-aged man looked at the cliff and waited. The battle in the sky was almost coming to an end. The large white bird was exhausted. Even though numerous lights illuminated it, the outcome was clear. Chu Jie might lose because of the vast gap between her strength and her opponents. Jiang Hao watched the sky. He had sensed it. If he went up, he would face the same fate. Even with the identity of Jiyu Jin, it was of no use. The opponent's identity was real, and their knowledge and methods far surpassed his. With such a huge gap, it would be useless to intervene. The opponent wouldn't lower their cultivation realm to compete with him on an equal footing, after all. So, he couldn't get involved. If they came for him, he would run. He wanted to leave the matters of the West to the West. However, he didn't intend to take the jade pendant with him. Perhaps he could find someone to entrust it to. Whether it was the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment or the Shenyuan sword, he couldn't replace them. He was only there to help them. He knew he couldn't bear such a heavy responsibility, nor could he reach their level. He just wanted to survive and would find ways to do so, no matter how tough it became. He wasn't destined to become a revered figure among the people. However, he wouldn't snatch away the opportunities of these people either. He would always help if he could. The present situation was no exception. As the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment was about to be defeated, Jiang Hao attempted to disrupt the corpse's fortune. He would help create an opening for Chu Jie. But Jiang Hao turned to look at Hong Yuye and hesitated. "Senior, there is something I need your help with." "Sure. As long as you intend to pay the price," said Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao nodded. It seemed like he owed her 3 things for helping him 3 times. Or was it 4 times? He couldn't remember. He didn't care. She could have killed him easily if she intended to. Since she hadn't, he could only assume he was still of some use to her. Otherwise, he would have been dead by now. "What do you want to do?" Hong Yuye asked. "I have to trouble you to retrieve 2 things later, Senior," said Jiang Hao. In the sky, the tiger spoke in human language. "Such a pity. Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment is rarely seen. It's really a shame to kill you like this. But if you don't die, I won't get what I want. So, I have to kill you." The might of the corpse clan emanated. The black vortex revolved as if the entire sky had become the territory of the tiger. Every step expanded the aura and shook the earth. The bird soared high, but it couldn't surpass the tiger. The bird trembled. It wanted to turn around and escape, but it composed itself and prepared to fight again. "Your bravery is commendable, but it's still not enough." The tiger leaped with its claws out. The bird's wings were torn apart again. The claws slashed at its body. The bird screamed in agony. On top of the mountain, Jing Dajiang frowned. He sighed sadly. "It seems like that person is not planning to make a move." "I don't know why." "Are you going to make a move?" the bearded old man asked. "Yes. Contact the Bright Moon sect and tell them that we must join hands in this fight. Have some people from the academy stand guard. Well, defend as long as it takes," said Jing Dajiang. At that time, they had to do what they needed to do. They couldn't retreat. That would only lead to more deaths. Just when they prepared to go all out, they heard a dragon's roar. A dazzling white light pierced through the black vortex. Chapter 868. There's the dragon is roar, but no sight of a true dragon. A dragon's roar? Jing Dajiang was surprised. Where did the dragon's roar come from? Some people around him heard it too. The middle-aged man at the Gentian cliff also looked up. Dragon? Are there dragons in the West? Even if there were, why would they appear at this time? Outside the Great Vortex, if the Dragon Clan made a move, it would have a significant impact everywhere. Those who were about to leave, including Mr. Dao, also looked in the distance. A dragon? Tang Ya was surprised. Many unexpected events were occurring in the west this time. And all of them were beyond his expectations. Mr. Dao had sensed it too. The west was chaotic right now. If they lingered, no one knew what might happen next. However, it was both fortunate and regrettable that they hadn't found the dragon's nest. They felt even more disappointed when they heard the dragons roar. Could there be real dragons in the dragon's nest? Zhu Shen asked. Mr. Dao shook his head. He was not sure. The current situation was completely out of control. Anything was possible. They didn't dare stay a moment longer and left. It was better to leave as fast as possible at this time. Regardless of the corpse army, the Great Vortex and the dragons indicated one thing. The west was chaotic and dangerous. It was safest to escape. In front of Mountain God Village, Baizhu looked up at the sky and saw a dazzling light. We can hear the roar but can't see the dragon. What's going on? They heard the roar, but no real dragon appeared. The radiant light pierced through the Great Vortex. Jade pendant of fortune? When she saw the white light, Baizhu realized it was a jade pendant similar to the one she had in her hands. Behind the jade pendant were two figures that resembled dragons. They were vague, with a purple pearl at their core. At that moment, the twin dragons broke through everything and rushed toward the center of the Great Vortex. Baizhu was stunned. She had a bad feeling about it. The black vortex was actually receding. It can't be. On the other side, Liu Ying was filled with anticipation. Then, she was puzzled. At first, she thought Senior Jiyu had finally taken action, but that didn't seem to be the case. It's Senior Gus Jade Pendant, but what are the two dragon illusions behind it? This doesn't seem to be Senior Gut's fortune. She couldn't understand. Many people felt it was strange. They could clearly sense that the two dragons weren't real but cause of power. The fierce tiger hovered in the sky and lowered its head. Afraid to confront me with your true body? However, it felt something was odd about this new fortune. It seemed somewhat familiar. Looks a bit like. No, it's different. Anyway, I will crush you. No one can stop me. The fierce tiger took a step forward. Its aura was like tens of thousands of mountains pressing down. At that moment, the twin dragons raised their heads, and a roar echoed. A force blasted into the sky. This sudden scene shocked the fierce tiger. This shouldn't have happened. After that, he dared not hesitate. The vortex rolled up and attempted to tear apart the two dragon illusions. However, the vortex was shredded as soon as it approached the true dragons, and nothing could stop the progress of their fortune. The fierce tiger frowned. If that's the case, I'll wait for you to come in and see what your fortune looks like. The jade pendant broke through the vortex and entered the sky. At the same time, the two dragons flew into the sky. The fortune began to expand. The red true dragon rose higher, then shrank into a ball of crimson light. The light began to expand. The green true dragon didn't soar but also shrank into a ball. It transformed into a sphere of green light and expanded alongside the red light. The fierce tiger stood still and gazed at the two spheres. It waited for the light to stop expanding. However, the spheres grew larger. It was surprised. Then, its surprise turned into shock. Finally, it looked up at the sky in terror. Because, from some auras, he finally understood what he was witnessing. Jing Dajiang stood on the peak. He was taken aback by the appearance of the two true dragons. He wanted to know what the twin dragons would evolve into. The more he watched, the more shocked he became. When the transformation ended, Jing Dajiang took a sip of tea. This will lead to the downfall of the West. Liu Ying looked at the sky in shock. Baizhu felt that her life was really troublesome. In the sky, the red star occupied half of the sky, and the green star took up the other half. The entire West seemed to be covered by these two stars. It was like having two suns in the sky. One represented the heavenly fate misfortune pearl. The other represented the earth extreme silent pearl. In front of them, the great vortex exploded. This was just an image of the form of their fortune. If it were their original form, the West would have ceased by now. At that moment, Baiju felt the terror of the presence of the two ominous pearls. The middle-aged man on the giant stone stood still and looked at the sky. He smiled bitterly. Are people nowadays so crazy strong? I just wanted to kill a few people, and you guys are about to end the world just to stop me. The Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, truly a grand move. All that just to compete with my fortune? So, it's really you. Jiyu Jin. The middle-aged man sighed. What have you done? Let it be. I'm no match for you anyway. His body began to petrify. He fell into a deep slumber. In this life, I will never again compete with others for fortune. With you around, Jiyu Jin, I never want to revive again. In the high sky, the fierce tiger accepted defeat. The large bird also fled the scene. The two old corpses were stunned. When the corpse king retreated, no one cared. They wished he would flee faster so he couldn't offend more powerful people. At that time, the powerful people were no longer concerned about the corpses. They were concerned about the two ominous creatures that looked like stars. They were monstrosities. Old Man Corpse stood still for a long time. He was deep in thought. Eventually, he turned and left. The end of all things was excited. They seemed to have reached a consensus, to rush into the sky to trigger these two stars. Once successful, it would be literally the end of all things. Chapter 869, Sunrise in the East with Purple Energy. The appearance of the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl exceeded everyone's expectations. It caused panic among the people in the West. However, for those in the end of all things, it was an extremely rare opportunity. They used their most powerful magical treasures and employed secret techniques to enhance their cultivation. All of this was aimed at unleashing the power of these two objects. If the West fell, other places would also be hard-pressed to escape. May the heavens be with us. A middle-aged man rushed to the forefront. He harbored a deep hatred for this world. Those in high positions simply did not care about the lives of ordinary people. In their eyes, as long as they used force, everything could be resolved. They believed that the weak should bow down in the face of the strong. It was useless for the weak to have resentment if they didn't have the means. They couldn't kill or harm others. Weak people's hatred was nothing more than impotent rage. He wanted to make those powerful individuals understand that their resentment and hatred could overturn the entire world. In an instant, the emotions of all those who were part of the end of all things resonated with their emotions. The huge force of their resentment became like a blade that wanted to slash the world to destruction. The strike aimed to break the shackles of the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Boom! At the moment the blade struck, an old man stood in front of it. A vast force poured down from his entire body. Boom! The blade clashed with the sea of power surrounding him. Even though the emotional blade could cut through half of the sea, it gradually dispersed in the face of the boundless power. Why don't you go find your own enemies instead of coming here to harm innocent people? A bearded old man looked at the people below. People here are united. Find somewhere else to settle your grudge. Why put innocent people in harm's way here? You don't even understand, the middle-aged man roared. Can you even understand the pain we endure? You high-ranking individuals have no idea about the suffering we face. You are a bunch of hypocrites. I don't understand. The old man laughed heartily. You, a bunch of cowards who dare not face your own enemies, dare say I don't understand this. When I was 7, my father was beaten to death by a landlord just because he defended a piece of his land. My mother worked tirelessly to support my studies, and when I became a top scholar, she was killed by a cultivator. Fortunately, my master took me away to teach me cultivation. When I reached the Foundation establishment realm, I wanted to heal my master's injuries, but a strong individual appeared and claimed my master conspired with demons. He killed my master. After that, they found out they had killed the wrong person. You know what they said to me? They said that my master was destined to be killed like this. Can you even understand the kind of pain I have been through? And what about me? Said the old man. I focused on cultivation. The first person I killed when I became stronger was that landlord. The second man I killed was the cultivator who killed my mother. When I became powerful, I went in search of the person who wrongfully accused my master. He brought along a senior to lecture me on how I should let go of my resentment. I killed him brutally in front of that senior as a joke. At that time, I was already prepared to die. What about you? Despite having people on your side, you don't want to take revenge on those who harmed you. But you want the world to end. Is it because you are too weak to seek revenge or haven't had the chance? Or maybe you are too cowardly to go after the ones who harmed you, and despite having so many people, so united, you don't go to seek revenge on your enemies. Instead, you resent this world. Is it because you lack the ability to seek revenge, or you haven't had the chance? Or perhaps, you simply dare not go after them and instead want to harm innocents to fuel your ego? Those are all nonsense to confuse the crowd. You just want to stand in the spotlight and have an excuse to kill us, shouted the middle-aged man. The old man with the long beard shook his head and then looked into the distance. There were still many from the end of all things soaring into the sky. None of them were in the great vortex. These people seemed to have forgotten the existence of the academy. A powerful force acted like a barrier and blocked the path to the sky. No one in the west could approach the heavens. Every place had people from the academy guarding it. Jing Dajiang looked at the sky. He was momentarily unsure of what to do. "Can someone tell me what to do?" said a powerful individual. No amount of planning had prepared them for this. They could only watch helplessly. After a pause, he transmitted his voice across a distance. "Liu Ying, come see me." The chef of the noodle shop hurriedly went to find Jing Dajiang. Soon, she appeared at the peak where Jing Dajiang was located. "Senior," Liu Ying said politely. "Can you explain what's going on?" Jing Dajiang asked. "I met Jiyu Jin. That jade pendant is supposed to be his, but it's strange. I don't know how the two dangerous pearls appeared." Senior Jiyu Jin? Jing Dajiang recalled the person he met at the Thousand Springs River. He had said that his surname was Jiyu. However, he didn't look like Jiyu Jin. He stopped thinking about it. The identity token had already been sent out. Whether it was someone from the academy or not, they were now considered part of the academy. If it really was Senior Jiyu Jin, he would have to escort him back to the academy. "Now, tell me how to suppress the manifestation of the aura of fate." Jing Dajiang still needed to deal with the matter first. At present, the true body has not descended into this world. So, as long as we find individuals with special luck, we might be able to suppress this powerful force, Liu Ying said. "Special luck?" Jing Dajiang frowned. "Those with special luck and great fortune have an affinity with the heavenly path. But I haven't met someone like that here for a while," Liu Ying said. Jing Dajiang furrowed his brows. "If I ascend and assist the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment, will it work?" "There is only a 30% success rate," Liu Ying said after thinking for a while. "That will have to be enough." Jing Dajiang instructed someone to bring along the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment to meet him. At that moment, the twin suns in the sky trembled. Liu Ying frowned. Someone is attempting to resonate with the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. It should be someone from the end of all things. It seems they are making a desperate attempt for it. Jing Dajiang no longer hesitated and ascended to the high heavens. "I'll go up first. Hurry up and find the one with the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment. Senior, once you are tainted by the aura of the Misfortune Pearl, you will become weaker," Liu Ying said. "So?" Jing Dajiang asked. He approached the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl along with many other powerful individuals. Some were members of the academy, and some were from major factions. Just as they were about to take action, a light rose from the east. It was a sunrise. However, there was a streak of purple energy accompanying the sunrise. Chapter 870, Going Up the Grave. Purple Energy. The light suddenly turned purple and surprised Jing Dajiang and others. This was not normal. At that moment, Baizhu supported the pale-faced Chu Jie and looked up at the sky. They saw the red sun rising from the east, but the crimson morning glow was replaced by purple light. The stars in the sky seemed to sense something, and they gradually calmed down. Baizhu stood dumbfounded in place. Purple. Purple energy? Chu Jie seemed to recall something. She knew someone was about to make a move. Even Mr. Dao, who was on the run, was bewildered by the sunrise turning purple. What is that? Tang Yue asked. Someone may be trying to retrieve those 2 pearls, Mr. Dao said calmly. Using the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl and the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl was easy, but retrieving them was extremely difficult. Jing Dajiang and others didn't make a move because the appearance of the purple energy was unexpected. After a moment, as the sun rose in the east, the purple energy soared into the sky. The purple energy arrived from the east and covered a distance of 30,000 miles. It pierced through the clouds and enveloped the 2 pearls. In the next instant, the 2 pearls disappeared. The terrifying beings that had frightened countless people disappeared just like that. The sky returned to normal, and there was nothing covering the sky. Jing Dajiang and others were stunned. Is it over? They had intended to go all out. It was a false alarm. Many people lacked the confidence to face it. At that moment, the vortex of fate gathered once again. Then, it exploded. The fortune merged into the west. There was no more vortex. It seemed that the ancient grudge had been resolved. Everyone stood still. It was too fast and too strange, like a fever dream. Meanwhile, Jiang Hao on the hillside looked at the jade pendant in his hand and couldn't help but sigh. The pendant was fading slowly. In his other hand, he held 2 purple pearls. One was the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl, and the other was the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Jiang Hao could release them, but he couldn't control them or retrieve them. So, he had to seek help from Hong Yuye. Hong Yuye blessed him with purple energy and crossed the high heavens to reclaim the 2 pearls. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to pull a stunt like this. What he had done was just an attempt to disrupt the vortex of fate. Who would have thought it would cause such a commotion? A slight mistake could have led to his own destruction with the eruption of the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. I shouldn't get involved in such things in the future. He had been lucky this time, but he might end up dead the next time, especially with the end of all things trying to cause havoc everywhere. Why were they so crazy? Jiang Hao bowed to Hong Yuye. Thank you, Senior. The air in the west has been tainted by you a lot, Hong Yuye said indifferently. Jiang Hao silently brewed a cup of September spring. Hong Yuye took a sip. He propped her chin on her hand and closed her eyes. Jiang Hao took out a book and began reading. He was reading the Nameless Manual. This time, he didn't use clear and pure heart, but it was still enough for him to understand more of the contents of the book. Maybe he could sense such things because of the jade pendant. He felt that something was about to happen in the Gentian cliff. Hong Yuye didn't wake up. Jiang Hao hesitated. Then, he decided not to wake her. He focused on reading. 3 days passed just like that. Jiang Hao felt it even more now. He knew that the sage's pages were about to manifest. The sage's pages likely recorded the most crucial aspects of the era. Everyone wanted to take a look at it. Jiang Hao was curious as well, but he knew he couldn't compete with others. If Hong Yuye was present, she might intervene at a critical moment. He wouldn't have many chances. For now, it was better to not do anything. At night, Jiang Hao felt spiritual energy surging in the distance. A powerful impact woke Hong Yuye from her sleep. She glanced at the tea, took a sip, and then looked in the distance. The sage's pages are out, she asked. Yes. Jiang Hao put down the book in his hand. Let's go and take a look. Hong Yuye got up. Jiang Hao nodded and followed her closely. They disappeared from their place. With Hong Yuye leading the way, they moved at a speed Jiang Hao couldn't comprehend. After half a day, he and Hong Yuye appeared in front of a village. The village seemed deserted. Mountain Village was carved on a large rock outside the village entrance. Jiang Hao suddenly remembered the village from Zhong's memories. The village only had stone statues left. It was abandoned. Too much time had passed. After that, he walked in and found an old man crouched in a corner. He was eating something. Seeing Jiang Hao approaching, he instinctively covered the dirty food in front of his chest. Jiang Hao didn't disturb him. He just nodded and continued ahead. On the way, he found 4 people. Each one struggled to survive, just like the first old man he had seen. No matter how difficult it was, nobody wanted to die. Clearly, these people were innocent and wanted just to survive another day. The end of all things was hell-bent on destroying everything, even people like these. Shaking his head, Jiang Hao climbed up the hill and found a grave. It was an ordinary grave. Wild grasses had covered it. The inscriptions on the tombstone were already worn with time. Jiang Hao cleared away the weeds. He then wiped the tombstone with a piece of cloth. After that, he took out an incense and lit it. He then placed it gently in front of the grave. He didn't say anything but watched quietly. After waiting for some time, he turned and left. At that moment, a middle-aged man appeared at the Gentian cliff. He looked down and seemed to be lost in thought. Opposite him, Lu Mantian also looked below. He ate spirit stones slowly. There was also an old man sitting under a tree. The 3 of them didn't talk. They just waited patiently. Just then, footsteps sounded behind them. The 3 looked in the direction of the footsteps. They saw an ordinary young man with an ordinary woman. They casually walked toward the cliff. It looked as though the 2 people were out on a casual stroll. However, as they arrived, the cliff shook and some aura affected the surrounding space. The 3 people were surprised. They saw purple energy condensed around them. In an instant, the 3 people realized who the newcomers were. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,